Hello, welcome all. Today we will be seeing some of the examples for the electrolysis. And the previous classes we have seen electrolysis can happen either in the molten state or in the solution state. So we'll take up some examples both in the molten as well as in the solution state and see how the electrolysis process is uh, further taken up or how electrolysis exactly happens. So first example is the electrolysis in the molten state. And here we are taking the example of lead bromide. As we can see, lead bromide is an ionic system, right? Because it contains Pb2 plus and Br minus ions. So some of the basic information, the electrolytic cell, the cell in which the electrolyte is taken is made up of silica crucible. Why we use this? Because they are heating at very high temperature. So we need something that can withstand the temperature. So we use a electrolytic cell made up of silica crucible. Then electrolytes are the electrolyte is the lead bromide itself, which will be heated to make it a liquid state, make it take into liquid state, or we call it molten or fused state. Then the electrodes are inert electrodes, that is iron graphite, and iron or graphite and graphite electrodes are used as cathode and anode respectively. And temperature and current, these are very minute informations, like we have to heat it at 380 degrees Celsius to melt it, and also we have to put a current of 3 amps for the electrolysis process to happen. So this is the premise. Now we'll see what exactly happens. We can divide this into 3 steps: dissociation of lead bromide, then reaction at cathode, reaction at anode. Just a reminder, cathode is the negative electrode, as we are all aware, and anode is the positive electrode. So first let's see what happens for the lead bromide itself. The lead bromide, when you heat it to its isotropic or liquid temperature, the melting point, what we call in general, the bond between lead and bromine breaks because there's ionic bond, and we supply enough energy in the form of heat, that bond breaks and ions are separated. We have lead ion Pb2 plus and we have bromine Br minus. Now what are the ions present? Pb2 plus and Br minus. Now think for yourself, lead brom 2 plus or Pb2 plus is a cation and Br minus is an anion. Where does Pb2 plus go? Will it go to cathode or anode? Pause for a moment and think. Yes, the lead Pb2 plus will move towards anode, cathode, because it is a cation, and Br minus will move towards anode because it is an anion or negatively charged ion. Now what happens at cathode? The lead 2 plus Pb2 plus, at cathode what exactly happens? Cathode is a reduction electrode. The cathode, which is negatively charged, gives the electron to incoming cation, and that incoming cation takes the electron and becomes metal, discharged as metal. So Pb2 plus takes up the electron and becomes lead metal, and this lead metal will be deposited on the cathode. Let's see what happens at the anode. What ion moves to anode? Anion moves to anode, which is negatively charged. It negatively charged means what? It has excess electrons. Once it moves to positive electrode, it will give away that excess electron, and from ion to it becomes atom. That is, it becomes from bromine minus to bromine atom. A single bromine atom combines with another bromine atom to form bromine molecules. That is Br2, which is a gas and will be liberated. At where it will be liberated? At anode. So in a nutshell, when you take a lead bromide and heat it to its melting point and then pass the electricity, what you will get Pb2 plus and Br minus ions. Then that Pb2 plus, which is a cation, moves towards cathode, takes the electron from cathode and gets reduced to lead. Similarly, Br minus, an anion, goes towards anode, give away its excess electron and becomes an atom, and that bromine atom, two of them combine together from the bromine molecule, which will be discharged at anode. So at cathode, lead will be deposited, at anode bromine will be discharged or liberated. So this is the general information. The crucible is made up of silica because, as we see, it has to withstand high temperature, and lead bromide is taken as electrolyte, and electrode material is inert electrode here, graphite ones. And also ions will become free only after the melting, because lead bromide, the ions are held strongly at the solid state. When you put enough energy, the bonds will be broken. And now what we have seen is summarized here. The cathode is the electron donor, and metallic lead ions need electrons to discharge at the cathode as neutral lead atoms or metallic lead. What does it mean? Cathode has an electron, it has rich electron, cation moves there, take up the electron and becomes metal. Same way, anode is electron deficient, and anions which having more electron will move towards there. Bromine gives up the electron, resulting in the formation of neutral bromine atoms. Just keep these 3 points in mind. First, dissociation, then taking up the electron by the cation and forming metal, giving up the electron by the anion to forming the atom. This is what the process of lead bromide is. Here the overall is summarized. First, it's again repetition. The lead bromide, dissociation, and what happens at cathode. See, in this whole thing, in this whole example, you have to remember this one box. This is enough. What happens? Stepwise you remember. First, lead bromide dissociates, or any ionic compound dissociates, and cation moves towards cathode. Anion moves towards anode. That is firm. And now cation takes the electron from the cathode and becomes lead, or becomes atom. It is reduction, taking up of electron. And anion goes to anode. Anode is positive in charge. It gives the electron to anode because anode don't have electrons. And anion gives up the electron to anode, and it becomes atom. This is oxidation. Reduction at cathode, oxidation at anode, and dissociation. First step. 3 steps you remember. That is more than enough. Let's take the example of acidified water. What is acidified water? See, we know water H2O. H2O can electrolyze into H plus and OH minus. This one you know, right? But pure water is not conductor of electricity. Why? Because the presence of H plus and OH minus ions in the pure water is extremely less. There is hardly, if you have to put it in numbers, the ionic product of water, don't bother much about this concept. The ionic product of water is 10 to the power minus 14. That means there are 10 to the power minus 14 cations and anions, which is extremely small number, very small. So there is not enough ions, because remember in the postulates, in Arrhenius postulates in the previous video, you can refer that if you haven't gone through yet. Just in the Arrhenius postulates we have seen the electrolysis or the conduction of electricity through the solution depends on concentration of ions. But here the ionic concentration is very less, hence the conductivity won't be there. So pure water is not a conductor of electricity. That's why we will take dilute H2SO4, dilute sulfuric acid, which will dissociate similar to H2O. It will dissociate into H plus and SO4 2 minus. Here H plus is the cation, SO4 2 minus is the anion. Once that H plus is formed, it will encourage water to break further. Now H plus and OH minus will be formed. Just keep it in mind. If you take pure water, pure, it is very pure, H plus and OH minus concentration is less. But when you add sulfuric acid, a dilute sulfuric acid, it will dissociate to form H plus and SO4 2 minus ion. Then once H plus is formed from sulfuric acid, it will catalyze the water to form these ions, H plus and OH minus. Now think in the solution, we have 2 situations. One, H2O giving rise to H plus and OH minus, and this sulfuric acid giving rise to H plus and SO4 2 minus. Now 2 situations. We have one set of cation, this is H plus. In both cases, from water as well as from sulfuric acid, it is H plus. But the set of anion is, one is OH minus, I'll take some different color, and another is SO4 2 minus. 2 anions, and cations are both similar. And now think what exactly happens. Once dissociation is done, it will move to cation, move to cathode, anion moves to anode. By now, I think you'll be sure what exactly is happening. H plus is the cation, moves to cathode. The H plus ion migrates to cathode, and at the cathode, the H plus ion gives away the except ion takes the electron. At cathode, it's electron rich. H plus takes the electron and become hydrogen. And 2 hydrogens, the hydrogen one hydrogen and another hydrogen, 2 atoms. Similar case to bromine, 2 hydrogen react and form H2 gas. The gas will be liberated. This is what happens at cathode. Remember, this is cathode C. Okay. Now we have to see what happens at anode. There are two anions, SO4, just pardon my handwriting, SO4 2 minus and OH minus. Okay, there are two anions which will be preferentially liberated. Now this is a question is solved by electrochemical series, which we have discussed in another video. You can refer that. Okay, SO4 2 minus and OH minus. Among these two, which is in the lower side of the electrochemical series, that will be liberated. Here OH minus is on the lower side compared to SO4 2 minus. Hence OH minus will be liberated at anode. SO4 2 minus remains as it is. Now what happens at anode? OH minus, it is an anion. It should give away the electron. Electron it loses. Electron is gone. Electron is lost from OH minus and become OH. Now it can't remain just as OH. It reacts with 4 such OH. See, above we have seen hydrogen can't remain as hydrogen atom. It reacts with another hydrogen and forms hydrogen gas. Similar way, OH reacts with 4 such OH at molecules and forms water and liberates O2 gas. And how many water are produced? 2 molecules of water for balancing and 1 oxygen molecule. Now, what exactly this means is, one molecule of the ratio is 2:1. That is, hydrogen is liberated at cathode and oxygen is liberated at anode. The ratio of hydrogen and oxygen liberated is 2:1. What exactly does mean? As per the reactions, what you have seen, 4 H plus ions react to form 2 hydrogen molecules. See, 1 hydrogen atom, 1 hydrogen atom, 2. They give 1 hydrogen molecule. Similar way, 2 gives 1, then 4 give 2, right? Same way at anode, 4 OH minus, we have seen here, 4 OH minus will give 1 oxygen molecule. Hence, we have seen now 4 hydrogen atom, 4 H plus gives 2 hydrogen, whereas 4 OH minus gives 1 oxygen. That's why the ratio is 2:1. So the dissociation of acid can happen. Acid can what they call catalyze the dissociation of water. It can be strong or weak acid. Similar way, you can take alkali, NaOH or KOH, these kind of alkali also, because they produce OH minus ion. They also catalyze the dissociation of water. But at the end product is liberation of 2 hydrogen for 4. For example, if you take 4 molecules of water, 2 hydrogen will be liberated at cathode and 1 oxygen will be liberated at anode. These are hydrogen and oxygen molecules. They'll come as gas bubbles. Okay, this is how dissociation of water happens when alkali or acid is used. But as such, the pure water is non-conductive. It doesn't undergo electrolysis. So in this video, we have discussed about the examples of electrolysis, both in the case of molten state as well as in the solution state. Okay, the steps how we have to remember is, you have to remember 3 steps. First, dissociation of anything, either covalent or ionic system, that will form ions. For example, sulfuric acid dissociated and even PbBr2 dissociated to form ions. There are only 2 kinds of ions possible: cations, anions. And second and third step are cation moving to cathode, getting reduced, anion moving to anode, getting oxidized. These 3 are the important steps. But when you have more than 1 cation or more than 1 anion, you have to refer the electrochemical series. If a cation is down in the electrochemical series, it will preferentially move to the cathode. If 2 anions are there, the anion which is below in the electrochemical series will move towards the anode and preferentially discharge. I hope the examples and these concepts are clear. Next class we'll see about the different kind of, when in these 2 cases we have used inert electrodes, but if you use the active electrode, then what is going to happen? Previously we have seen what is an active electrode, which will participate in the reaction, but here we have taken graphite electrodes which won't participate. Next example we'll see what happens when we use the active electrode, as well as we'll see, using that concept we'll talk about electroplating. I hope this concept is clear to you. We'll see in the next class. Thank you.